It's 2008. The air is electric with excitement. Two charismatic figures on the national stage, each promising a brighter future for America. On one side, a decorated war hero and longtime senator. On the other, a young and inspirational orator poised to make history. The nation watches, captivated, as these two titans battle it out for the highest office in the land. On one side stood Barack Obama, a graduate of Harvard Law School magna cum laude, one of the most gifted politicians of his generation. His eloquence and message of unity inspired millions. On the other side was John McCain, who spent nearly 6 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam and was known for his independence streak and commitment to public service. Both men represented the best of American leadership. They brought vision, integrity, and a genuine commitment to the nation's future. Their debates were substantive, focusing on policy differences and their vision for America's future. Contrast this with the 2024 election. Kamala Harris did not earn her party's nomination, but was handed it. She has struggled to define her positions. Critics point to her limited experience and her controversial record as a prosecutor. Donald Trump inherited substantial wealth and has been criticized for his numerous failed businesses and a presidency marked by divisiveness and scandal. Neither candidate shows the intellectual brilliance or moral character of the 2008 contenders. So how did we get here? One significant factor in this decline can be traced back to 2010 with a Supreme Court decision that changed the landscape of American politics. Citizens United versus FEC. This ruling removed limits on how much money corporations, unions, and wealthy individuals could pour into political campaigns. Imagine a small town where everyone's voice used to carry equal weight in local decisions. Now picture what would happen if suddenly a few wealthy residents could spend unlimited amounts of money to influence every vote. That's essentially what happened to our national politics. This flood of money has pushed candidates towards more extreme positions to please wealthy donors. Research shows that wealthy donors often hold more extreme positions. The result? Policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many. Take the 2017 tax reform under the Trump administration. While tax cuts can be beneficial, this policy was heavily influenced by wealthy donors. According to the Congressional Budget Office, it added an estimated $1.9 trillion to the national debt over 10 years. That's money that could have been used for education, healthcare, or infrastructure, investments that benefit all Americans. Another crucial factor is how we consume information. Remember when most people got their news from TV channels and newspapers? Those days are gone. Now we have a fragmented media landscape, with social media playing a massive role. Platforms like Facebook and Twitter allow candidates to speak directly to viewers, bypassing traditional media filters. While this can be good for transparency, it also means that false or misleading information can spread like wildfire. These platforms use algorithms designed to keep you engaged, often by showing you content that aligns with your existing beliefs. It's like being in an echo chamber where your own opinions are constantly repeated back to you. This has led to increased polarization, where people with different political views can't even agree on basic facts. Traditional media hasn't been immune to these changes either. In a race for clicks and views, many outlets have shifted towards more sensational, partisan coverage. Rupert Murdoch, the founder of Fox News, once admitted that his network aimed to scare people, to boost viewership. But this isn't just a problem on one side of the aisle. For example, a Pew Research study found that 93% of MSNBC's coverage of Donald Trump during his presidency was negative, indicating a clear partisan slant. Now, let's talk about money. Not just in politics, but in our everyday lives. Economic inequality in the United States is at its highest levels in a century. The top 1% of Americans now own more than a third of the nation's wealth. To put that in perspective, that's a level of inequality we haven't seen since the 1920s, just before the Great Depression. This isn't just a stat. It's a reality that millions of Americans live every day. It's the college graduate working 2 jobs to pay off student loans. It's the factory worker who lost their job to automation or outsourcing. It's the young couple who can't afford to buy a home in the city where they work. This inequality has pushed both major political parties towards more extreme positions. Many Democrats, especially younger ones, have embraced more left-leaning policies, calling for greater government intervention to address these inequalities. This shift led to the rise of figures like Bernie Sanders, whose calls for Medicare for all and free college tuition resonated with many young voters. But the Democratic establishment, fearing that Sanders' far-left policies couldn't carry a general election, worked to ensure another uninspiring candidate, Joe Biden, became the party's nominee in 2020. Biden, a lifelong bureaucrat, brought decades of experience, but none of Obama's charisma or conviction. On the Republican side, economic inequality and disillusionment with globalization have fueled the rise of populist leaders like Trump. This trend isn't unique to the United States. It mirrors a global pattern where nationalist, right-wing leaders have gained power by exploiting fears of immigration and the negative effects of globalization. These leaders claim to uphold traditional values and protect their nations from external threats, often by promoting isolationist policies and stoking division. The 2024 U.S. presidential election reflects the deep divide between these two responses to economic inequality. But both responses showed disillusionment with the status quo, as more and more Americans feel that neither party meets their needs. Americans deserve better, but it's up to us to demand it so the next generation of leaders is worthy of this lofty position.